fourth quarter and how to do well in fourth quarter and how to dominate in the first quarter. There's 82 days left in the year, and there's a lot of fear in the marketplace, right? A lot of issues going on, a lot of fear from agents. Look at rates today.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
Rates continue to rise, which obviously affects the mortgage market. And so what that means is it's going to be a difficult fourth quarter in terms of rates. The good news is things are still going to be selling, right? But it's going to be less people selling. That makes sense? And so this is something that's happening across the marketplace right now, across the country. And so we got to make sure that we really nail a fourth quarter to make sure we can dominate, right? And I want to just talk about some of the things I thought about last week and just notice that some are getting crushed right now, some are crushing it, right? Closed 16 deals last quarter. It's pretty damn strong, right? Closed 12. Our listing team, I can't remember how many it was, but we closed a lot. So there's still a lot of stuff that's getting sold. A lot of agents' businesses are up. Some are down in half, some are down 80%. And what's the main difference in that? Agent. That's it. Market's same. Market's down 20%. Some agents are up like crazy. Some businesses are down like crazy. The only difference is the agent, period, and how they actually execute. And so the reality is we got to make sure, how do we make sure that we dominate the next fourth quarter? I think that the fourth quarter and the first quarter is going to be the most difficult time mindset-wise for a lot of people who haven't been through a lot before. And so I want to prepare you for that just so you know, hey, look, here's the plan, and here's how I'll dominate, because it's going to be so much easier. And I was thinking about the best way to have an analogy for this. It's like you ever walk to the water, and you're getting your ankles in, it's not too bad, right? And then you get a little deeper, it gets to your knees, not too bad. And about the time you get to your private parts is about when it gets really cold. You ever notice that? Right? Guess where we are in the water-wise? We're about right here in the thigh. So it means is a lot of agents haven't really felt it yet, but in my opinion, you can tell even energy here, right? Me being gone a couple of days, come back, you can watch energy of our agents, energy from my friends that have teams across the country. They're starting to get that look in their face a little bit, right? Things a little more difficult, a little more headwind. If you look at our numbers, though, like and I were talking about, our year versus year pending deals were up the last 10 weeks in a row, right? 10 weeks in a row, we beat last year's numbers in bills. Why? They're doing very well with that, and it doesn't mean that we're going to kill, but I want to prepare you for what you're going to see around you in terms of agents dropping out, right, outside of here. And ultimately, so you can make sure you can dominate and capture more market share. Even though the market's going to be down 20% or so, there's still a lot more capture to be made because a lot of agents' businesses are down, and they're not making the adjustments. Does that make sense? I'm going to continue to say it. Those that make their calls, follow up like their business depend on it, maintain their constant relevant marketing, communicate with their database and their partners and schedule, and go on a lot of appointments are winning right now, period. It's a tale of two. Some will do it, some won't. We both know how the story ends. And what that means is what?
Don't fucking do it, you ain't gonna fucking make it.
The ones that don't do what they're supposed to do aren't going to make it. Before, you could hide last year a little bit, and guess what you could do? You still sell some stuff, right? Get away with doing it. And so it's important that they'll understand, hey, look, those make the calls, those are consistent, those are follow up that get better, they're going to make it right now. And so I really broke down the, hey, look, what's the four most important things that I think our team needs into this quarter? Q4 and Q1 I'm going to group together because it kind of does get to a blur, right? Everything you're going to do work-wise right now is going to close in 60 to 90 days later. So it's important for you guys to make sure you're pushing super hard right now. I think we want to make sure we have a sprint the next 30, 40 days because guess what happens about Thanksgiving? Everybody gets holiday brain. I'll wait to the first year, and all of a sudden, I got to make more calls to get the same amount of answers, or the same amount of people that want to do something. So doesn't mean you can't have some big deals, but I think it's super important for us to look at and understand, hey, look, what's important for us in Q4 and to Q1? I want you guys to make sure you have this thing, this marathon mindset. What do you think that means? You guys, you're run a marathon, you start running the marathon or like run a race with us. You run a long race, right? And all of a sudden you start running, you got all pumped up, you get there, and all of a sudden you start running. What happens once you get in and run a little bit? You start burning, start getting pain, and all of a sudden you start thinking what? Oh shit, I got a long ways to go, and I don't think I can do it. So it's important for me to make sure I have a marathon mindset. Two pieces that are very important. Marathon meaning what? Long term, long game. I'm playing the long game. I'm not very reactive to what? To short-term things or short-term emotions. I've got to make sure I'm just very, very committed the next quarter to have this marathon mindset because it's very, very important. The second piece is the word mindset, which means I got to do what? Protect your mind. I like to say how you control how you think. Meaning what? You're in control. I'm not in control, under the control of external circumstances, external issues that are happening around me. I've got to make sure I'm very committed to this going forward. And I'm just telling you, this is the key cornerstone or the key piece for us to make sure that I'm pushing into Q4 and to Q1. It's going to be scary. Rates get up to 9% plus, right? Second homes 10% plus. And guess what, though? People are still going to be buying. Why is that? Because they have to buy. And so there's just things happening in life, things that go on. And so my job is to get very good at that. But I got to make sure that I'm one of the agents that are going to win the next Q4, Q1 opportunity. I think you're going to see agents start dropping like flies because, like I mentioned, you're finally getting to that water, whereas you're starting to get to the waves, and people are starting to think of what, right? And so if you look at data, though, the numbers aren't that bad at all. Market down 20%. We beat our numbers the past 10 weeks in a row, year versus year. Why? Because we're doing the work in many cases, most people. Okay, so it's important to understand that and really dig at that. So the first thing I got to make sure that I'm thinking about having this Q4, Q1 is I got to be focused on endurance. What does that mean, endurance?
Being able to last.
Yep. I'm thinking that no matter what, I'm going to keep going. Right? I'm not going to be up. I'm not going to be down. Those that ride the emotion roller coaster are going to be the ones that get what? Burn out. They're going to get crushed. They're going to get smashed in terms of what happens in the next Q4, Q1. You can hear the external news. You're going to watch more news stuff, watch crazy like on TV like we saw last weekend. You're going to see all this stuff continue to happen. Why? Probably one of the most important elections in the world's history is coming up next year. A lot of people are doing some crazy to try to maintain power. And so it's important for me to understand that. I got to make sure that I'm understanding I have to have this endurance mindset. Meaning I do what? I get up every morning. I don't react to the short-term stuff. I focus on what? Winning long-term and focusing on the controllables in which I control my world. Okay? Saw this weekend the most dangerous terrorist to anybody is the one in your own head. All say to yourself, the negative speak, the negative talk, getting sucked into it. Right? It just happens all the time, over and over and over. Right? So you got to make sure you have this endurance mindset overall. And the second piece here, it's important, is my mindset about it. It's important. I got this too from that video I shared this morning. One of the guys talks about, it's not the problem that you have in front of you. What is it? It's the perception you have about the problem in front of you. It's not the problem you have in front of you. It's the perception you have about the problem in front of you. Meaning what? It's how you think about the problem, right? People that are winners, they see problems as what? Opportunities. Opportunities to win, right? I get paid as a business person. I get paid as an entrepreneur to do what? Solve problems. The more problems I solve people, the more money I make. So in essence, what you're doing when you're getting a deal done is you're doing what? Solving problems. So my understanding my mindset is I got to look at understanding my perception of what are problems in front of me. I got to train my mind daily. Like I go to the gym every single day. I don't really go to the gym every day to get more diesel. What do you think I do at the gym to do? Get more power and not go backwards. Right? I don't want to go backwards. I don't really see a difference. I get up every morning, right? 5:30 at the gym by 6. And I don't really see a difference when I leave. But guess what? I feel a difference because I'm doing what? I'm doing the work, putting myself in power. And so I want you guys to make sure it's got to be proactive daily. And I need you to have a plan. If not, you're going to get smashed because you get so reactionary to all the things that are designed to show you a certain narrative that's designed to do what? Demoralize you and get a certain reaction out of you. Right? It's just so easy to see once you kind of step back and look at the matrix and what's happened, in my opinion, on how everybody is doing everything in the world. Right? And it's crazy to look at the powers that be and who fund certain things. And all of a sudden you start looking at it and you realize, like, man, I got to make sure I control what I control first because that's my number one castle, right? My number one domain is what? My brain here. But I want you to understand that every day you have a mindset that you got to prepare for war. War in our business, war in what we're doing in terms of the mental game of can I come in and provide for my family at a high level when other agents are not? Because the good news is most agents can continue going in this marketplace just like how? How do you think? The same way they did last year. And the year before that. And the year before that. And they're not going to make any adjustments because it's very difficult and very painful for most people to make adjustments. How do we know? We see it in our own office. Right? People still doing the same thing they did last year and can't figure out why things are different. Well, that's because the outside is different and you haven't made the adjustments yet. And so you got to make sure that you're getting up mentally. And this is the cornerstone for the next 3. But I'm just telling you guys, I want you to make a commitment right now that no matter what, you're going to have a marathon mindset. Because It's going to be a mind. You're going to be running through the race. I want you to visualize that hey, look, I'm 1/3 the way through the race or 1/4 the way through the race, and all of a sudden my mind starts playing tricks on me. I got to go back and question myself, what work am I doing on me to prepare myself mentally every single day? I do it every morning, right? And I'm 20 years in this, and I still do it every morning. Why? Because I know how important it is to make sure I prepare my mind. And guess what happened? Is the more I do it, the more my capacity goes on. And the things that used to freak me out, used to keep me up at night, guess what? They don't really bother me anymore. I still sleep like a baby. This is something I've been thinking about a lot and watching, is awareness. What do you think that means? Why do you think it's on here? Awareness.
Most people think this already doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, in a way, they're just not aware of what's going on. They're not able to do this. In the first step, I'll just give you the answer. The first step here, I need you guys to make sure you're doing every single day, is you got to be willing to stop and look in the mirror. What do you think that means? I got to be real with myself, and I got to pause, and I got to be purposeful about looking in the mirror. Meaning what?
Always starts with you.
Everything starts for me, but it's important that I got to make sure I do what? I pause and start thinking about investigating it. If I finish last quarter up and I sold 1 house, 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses, guess what? And I'm in the business more than 6 months, guess what? You're the problem. And you're never going to fix it until you understand that you're the problem. Ever. It's not the marketplace, it's not the leads, it's not the clients. How do we know that? Because one of your coworkers sold 16 last quarter. Another one sold 12. Right? And guess what? They had the same lead, same opportunity, same script, same everything. The difference is what? Is you. And so you got to make sure that you understand, hey, look, I got to be willing to look in the mirror and do what? Start investigating, hey, look, what am I missing here? What am I saying? What am I doing? What am I putting into my body? What am I doing that's not giving me the oomph or the sharpness I need for people to want to buy with me or sell with me? It's important. Or I'm not making my dials, whatever it is in that scenario. The second thing I have here, which I just got to earlier, is investigate. I need you to make sure that if your numbers aren't where you want, you got to investigate. Now, if every single person was down across the board 50%, now then what will we have? A different problem, right? But in reality, we don't have that problem because some people's businesses are way up. The market's only down 20%, but some agency businesses in here are down 50%. Very few. Some are down 80%, some are 50%, some are up 50%. Some are up 1,000%. One of the highest percentage increases in the entire MLS. Right? But it's important to understand, like, look, you got to make sure that you understand, I've got to take time to do what? And I like the key word here, investigate, means I got to do what? What does that mean to you guys? I got to get curious, and I got to start making sure that I'm not just like being self-accountable, I'm investigating to be self-accountable. Like, I'm thinking about it. And the third piece here, which is where you miss it the most, is diagnose. Diagnose. Meaning I take the time to look in the mirror, investigate what's going on, and diagnose. Write it down, and what we do, we get together, we group think, and you bring it, and guess what we do? We come up with a great word track that overcomes. Super simple. You say, oh, thanks, great, I appreciate that. Why'd you look in the first place? You know what I mean? You just got to make sure that you guys, no, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. And here's the other thing. I've told multiple people in here to record the phone calls. Guess what they're not doing? Recording the phone calls. Another 4 or 5 weeks later, doing what? Way off the script, not even the same planet as the script, talking about people's grandma. Like stuff that has nothing to do with business, and they can't figure out they're still losing. Why? Because they're not willing to do what? They have zero self-awareness of why they're getting their ass kicked in the current marketplace. But they think what on the outside? It's the agent. It's the marketplace. It's the leads. It's the people. But ultimately, it's not, because you can't see it because you don't have the self-awareness to help diagnose it. And here's the crazy part. Time in the market doesn't mean anything. You can be here 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. As the market's shifted, if you're not making the right adjustments, guess what's happening? You're getting crushed. It's super important to make sure that you guys understand that. And that's important. The last piece of this I want you to make sure understanding is you got to be willing to hunt. I want you to have this word hunt, the facts. Hunt the facts. What do you think that means? It means you're on the hunt every day trying to figure out where the am I messing up at? Where am I screwing this up at? Where am I not getting the results I know I should be getting based on what my numbers look like? If my no-show rate is 80%, I'm the problem. And I've got to do what? hunt it down and go to my friends and go to people in the business and go to leadership. Say, hey, dude, I had this many appointments and this many showed up. What's going on here? Here's my recorded calls. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I did. Here's the actual lead sources. Here's the one. This one's in person. This one's at the property. This one's virtual. Here's what's going on. But guess what people are doing? The same old getting their ass beat in by everybody on the outside and just still getting their brains beat in just like everything's normal. And they can't figure out why they're still getting crushed. And so you got to make sure that you have awareness right now in this Q4 to make sure that we're figuring out where we're going. Third piece, where we're also getting our ass whipped the most, is I must outlearn and outskill. What do you think? The market. Outlearn and outskill the market. I want you to take this down and write this down. I mentioned earlier because I got ahead of myself, got excited about it a little bit. Let's write this down. It's 3 things. It's not the market. The problem is my skill set in the market. How do we know that you're selling a lot more than you? And so there's people still having success. Now, if no one was having success, like it was a true crash where no one could sell anything, it'd be different. But there's still a lot of people selling a lot of stuff. And so what that means is they have a different skill set and a different connection, sales IQ than you do. And this is the hardest one. 20% decline in sales across the market. It can be bouncing around based on what month it is, but around 20%. And then what's happening is you have the same amount of agents still. That creates contraction on it. And then all of a sudden competition's that much more. Meaning I got to react that much faster, I got to respond that much quicker. My copy's got to be that much better. My voice got to be that much better. My tonality's got to be that much better. And so I've got to make sure that my objection handling's got to be that much better. I need you guys to understand you must train harder than before. Why? We're in an unprecedented time. Both psychologically and also market-wise. 23-year high, right? That's higher interest rates than even when I've been in the business. And I've been here a long time. And so it's important to understand that people aren't used to buying houses at 10% interest. So I got to get good at what? Overcoming resistance, overcoming objections, overcoming hesitation. And if I can do that, I'm going to dominate and beat everybody else in that scenario, which is super important. Right? My practicing must be the same way I mentioned up here. It must be planned. Must be planned. What does that mean? Scheduled. If I don't plan it, what happens? I don't do it. Why? Because it's just not something that's natural. It's not natural at all. But once I plan it and schedule it long enough, all of a sudden it becomes natural. So like me, going to the gym is still not easy. I don't like getting up. I hated getting up this morning at 5:30. I was not feeling like getting up, but I got up. Why? Because now it's to a point where it's what? It's natural and almost feels unnatural for me not to do it once I get up and once I get there. If I don't get there, I feel guilty about it, right? And so it's important for you guys to plan out the same time, same place every day or whatever day you pick. I would pick a couple of days a week. It was great training, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? 8 a.m. virtually on Zoom, which is super simple, right? And he has lots of needs for topics that you guys need help on, and you guys can just get some help on that scenario. And part of that is the power of just group thing, right? The mastermind, that scenario, which is important. And the fourth piece here, which I think we're missing the most, and I don't just make up words. I sit back and just kind of meditate on this and think, all right, where's the biggest problems at? Where are the challenges at? Looking at numbers, what do we need the most? Like for me, here, a lot of times just the skilling, the practicing is missing a lot of intensity. So what that means is we're just doing it when it's convenient versus what? Doing it with intensity. If you look at somebody like Kobe Bryant, how do you think he practiced? With intensity, right? He did everything with intensity. Anybody successful in life is intense in everything they do. I learned that through Warrior. Before I got in Warrior, people used to tell me I was too intense. And I looked at it as a bad thing. The problem was they just weren't intense enough to be successful in life. And once I became okay with that, I'm like, all right, here's why intensity matters, because anybody successful is intense. Why? You have to have much more intense to get above the crowd. And so you want to be obsessed with like these objections. You walk around everywhere with them. You record yourself in your phone going through all of them, and you just listen to it over and over and over. That's intensity. And the fourth piece here, all of this, which is important, is just flat out grit. This is a big aha for me just going through. What does that mean, you guys? This is the next quarter. It's Q4 and Q1. What do you think that means? We know the market's down 20+%, meaning you got to make 20% more dollars. So even though there's 20% less sales, it's a lot more difficult in those 20% less sales. So it's important to understand, like, look, I got to make sure I'm doubling down in this aspect for sure. So if I haven't upped my skill set or my ability to have my sales IQ higher, what happens? I'll get crushed. And so it's not that the market's changing, it's that people are being manipulated and put in this pressure cooker of life right now. Oh, inflation's up like crazy, right? Gas up 100%. Eggs are up like triple, right? Look at all these things up. The average family is spending $750 a month more than they did previously, just 3 years ago. So you add all these things up, people are being much more agitated, and we're going in with what? IQ, which allows me to do what? Have them melt like butter in the microwave if I have my skill set dialed in. But this has bothered me a lot for the past couple of months. I'm like, why the f is everybody so crazy? Why are people so, like, here's the deal. We had a cash offer come through last week. The lady submitted to our website, said she wanted to sell. She wanted a cash offer request. She put the amount of money she wanted, and then you called her, and what happened? Oh, I'm not selling it. I'm like, how is this even possible? This lady literally requested a cash offer on our own website, not some random thing, right? Put the price she wanted, all this timeline, everything, and then he calls her. She says, F you, hangs the phone up. You're like, how does this even happen? Well, look at what's happened in the last 3 years. And so the problem is, I want you to understand, is that you're operating the same skill set you had pre-COVID, and not understanding that people are different now. They've been programmed differently. They've been just conditioned to be on edge all the time. And so if I'm not that much better than I was 3 years ago, of course I'm going to get my ass whipped right now. And so here's the number one thing. It comes down to my sales IQ. Period. You guys with me on this? And my sales IQ comes down to what? My ability to absorb the chaos, absorb the craziness they give me, be cool, calm, and collected, and have what? Something very witty and sharp to say back to it. That's why writing down your objection is so important. If they literally say, I want you to write it down, we'll come practice it on Thursday or Wednesday. And then guess what? We come together and we make a great word track. And all of a sudden, we're able to overcome that. We'll say it, whatever it is. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It seems like you're having a great day, whatever it is. And then I'm going to call them right back. Hey, look, it seems like I got disconnected. Right? Whatever it is, you got to make sure that you're understanding that, look, these people right now are way different than they were 3 years ago. I can't control what's happening, but I control my reaction, and I control how I win the game based on what people are doing. But I want to investigate and say, why the hell are people being so weird right now? Well, step back and look at it and say, okay, I'm going to play the game to win, and I'm going to make sure I find out how to get around that. Right? And it's just super important to understand that. And it was just one of the biggest lessons I ever saw. This guy who, I can't remember his name, used to be head of in that documentary. And he talked about when they made the trading of energy for free market, and the government was coming down trying to take the CEO. He said, boy, let me tell you something. I don't care what you boys do with the government. I'm going to find a bunch of really smart young guys. We're going to find a way to win. And it's just important to think about, like, no matter what they do, no matter what happens, what do you got to do? Find a way to win. Right? I'm just going to sit back and say, okay, here's the playing field. The playing field has changed. I can either get mad at the game, or I can do what? Play it to win. Some are doing great. Some of you guys are crushing it. I'm just saying. But here's the deal, right? How early are you showing up? I watch those same people who are struggling money-wise, deal-wise, pay their bill-wise. Guess what they're doing? They're rolling at 9 o'clock. Now, I don't know. I'm not a rocket scientist, but if I needed money and needed some deals, guess what I would do? Early being here trying to race to get the best leads first, right? When I was building this business, I would be here before the sun came up, and I would leave after the sun went down for years. I don't expect you guys to do that. You're not trying to build the same company. Like, you're not trying to. I don't recommend anybody really sacrificing like that. But ultimately, there's a level of sacrifice that's not being done. I was here this morning, right? No one's here early on. I was the first person here, 8:30 or something like that, whatever it was. But like 8:15, like, it's important. Like, hey, look. Like, you got to make sure that asking yourself the question of, like, hey, look, what's my grit look like? Second question is, how late am I staying? If I sold a deal last quarter and I show up 2 days a week, guess what? Your family deserves more from you, period. And so it's important to understand, like, look, this is a problem in many cases of asking yourself, how early and how late am I showing up? Because guess what? The market's different. The country's different. The entire world is different right now. And we're in unprecedented times of anyone's ever seen. And so if I know that the game has changed, what do I got to do? Change my strategy to play the game. We're playing one giant chessboard right now, and many people are not changing the strategy. Many agents are still playing checkers, and the game changed to chess.